first come to NTCC?
So my name is Mandy Smith, and I guess I first got to NTCC as a student probably around 1998 or so, 1988, 98, 99, somewhere around in there. So.
To now.
Yeah. So I guess the nice term is non-traditional student. I graduated from high school in 1974 and married my husband, the love of my life. We've been married for 51 years now. So I got married, graduated in high school the end of May, got married in June, end of June. So I worked for a couple of years. I actually worked at the hospital. I started that job whenever I was in high school. And so I worked another couple of years after we got married, and then we started our family. So I never went to college. I was just, and NTCC was not here at that time. So if I had wanted to go to school and pursue the laboratory type technician job, I would have had to gone to like Paris Junior College or somewhere like that. And, you know, it wasn't a passion. It was a good job, but it wasn't something that I was wanting to do. So I just worked for another couple of years, and then we started our family, had our first son, Cody, and in 1976, and then our daughter in 1979. So I was just a mom, and I loved it. My husband had a good enough job that I didn't have to work, and so I just enjoyed being a mom. And when my son was 12 and my daughter was 10, we really thought we weren't going to have any more children. I got pregnant with my youngest son, and Tail. And so my daughter's Cassidy. She's actually a student here at one time also. And so I just started substitute teaching a little bit whenever Tail was probably, I was still just being a mom, had teenagers and a youngster, and I was still, just enjoying being a housewife and mom. But I started doing some substitute teaching probably when he was about 8. And I kept telling my husband if I would go get a little college, I could probably substitute at some other schools, because some schools required more credit than others. And I didn't have any. And I was substituting at a very small little school that didn't require any college credit. So my husband would say, well, that college is over there. Go over there. And I would go, oh, I can't go to school. I've never went to college. I've been out of school by then about 20 years. And then I would rock on, not go to school, not just doing the mom thing and substituting a little bit. And then ever so often I would say, well, I could sub at some other schools. And he would say, that school's over there. And so finally I just started trying to get my nerve up to come over. And so one day I came over and I just pulled up into the circle and I tried to make my mind up whether to even get out and come in. And so I finally got enough nerve to do that. I came in and I talked to him about what I would have to do. And I had to get my transcript from the high school, which I've been out for 20 years. And then I was going to have to take a test, like a placement test to see where I was at. And of course that was scary. I hadn't taken any test or any studies in a long time. And so I came over, I did all that. I placed really well in the reading and writing, which was something I was always strong in school, but not so good in the math. And so, and then they just started signing me up for classes. And at that time, they did what was called arena registration. So we would all go over in what we know as a sub, and that's where teachers would be, and they would sign you up, and the counselors were over there. So the first time I went, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I just walked in with this large group of young students, and they started asking, what do you want to take? What are you interested in? And of course, again, I was just looking for some credits, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I'd always thought, man, would it be neat to write? Wouldn't it be? And I said, well, I kind of wouldn't mind some classes that have something to do with writing. And they said, well, we have journalism. And then Dr. Thompson, who was the journalism teacher at that time in English, he was walking through the building and they went, there goes the journalism, run and talk to him. So again, I was scared to death. I just ran up behind him, tapped him on the back and said, hey, they told me to come ask you. And he turned around and he said, oh yeah, I'll sign up for news writing class. I always like the older students. They do really well. And I went, okay. So I ran back, signed up, and literally, I know it's very much a cliche, but the rest is history. I started taking the journalism classes, really fell in love with the college newspaper, the Eagle, eventually became editor of the paper. In the first semester, I think I took maybe 6 hours, within probably a year, I was taking 18 hours and had decided to pursue a degree in journalism. So, and then I ended up transferring over to commerce to get my 4-year degree. But I say I am the poster child for NTCC because non-traditional student poster child for non-traditional students, what I meant to say, because I would have never gone to college. I would have not had the nerve, because at that time I would have had to go, to a large school, and had this small school not been here and the opportunities that it offered, I wouldn't have gone to a 4-year school. And so it really changed my life. The professors here, Dr. Thompson, Mr. Lynch, the English professor, Mr. Hanashek, history, Dr. Ritchie, math, Randy Nobles for government, just these wonderful, amazing professors who just embraced the fact that I was older, never made me feel different. I just, Danny Moss was my speech teacher, and they just really, it never felt like I did fit in. It felt like I just walked right in with all those young students, and I felt, scared and a little bit nervous, but the professors here it didn't matter. You were young, a dual credit student, you were welcome. You were an older, non-traditional student. They just immersed us in their classrooms and in their, in that environment of learning. And really they are why I'm here. Each one of them played a part in that. I always joke that Dr. Ritchie, I'm here because Dr. Ritchie helped me get through math. Mr. Hanashek, I took, his history classes, and he just made it so interesting. I loved it. Mr. Nobles taught me about government. Mr. Moss taught me how to do speech. And then, of course, Dr. Thompson was my real mentor. And I still use in the journalism class, his just, spirit is here all the time with us, because I use so much of what I learned from him. And so that's kind of my story. I went on, got my degree in journalism, worked for the local newspaper as feature editor, went ahead and got a master's in English. And then the opportunity opened up for me to apply for a position here. And the first time I didn't get it. And I had already started working on 18 hours of journalism graduate work also. And then the position opened up again, and I got it. And it was really just, a miracle. I always say it was just a God thing. That He just brought me here in the first place, and then, really led me to eventually get my position here. So some of the same professors that taught me are now my colleagues. And that's just unreal to me, that I sit down at a table with Dr. Ritchie, who really, again, helped me get through those challenging math courses. And now he's, a fellow teacher, and that's just kind of amazing to me. So that's my journey. And I think, looking back at 40 years, and now I'm still the advisor of the Eagle, where I was one time the editor of it. And so just trying to teach my students what Dr. Thompson taught me. And then our legacy, the college newspaper legacy, telling the story of the campus, it's really important to me, and something that we work real hard to keep up, the tradition of what this newspaper that started. It didn't start 40 years ago. It started at, I think the college newspaper began around 88 or 89. So the college had been open for about 4 years whenever the newspaper started. So it's getting that 35, 36 years. And so it's quite a legacy to continue. And it's, one that I feel a real responsibility to make sure that it does what it was started under Dr. Thompson to do. So anyway, but I am a cheerleader for NTCC. I love it. It's really second home to me. Matter of fact, my husband says it's almost the first home. I'm here more than I am at home, but it's been a true blessing and a wonderful place to make what I call my late in life career. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of like there is change, but then there's also a lot that has remained. The remainder is the family kind of just that feel that we're all in this together. And, I was always a little bit jealous whenever I talked to some of the early teachers that were here at NTCC, those that have been here the whole time, that tell the stories of getting to put the tables together the first week of school when the college was about to open. And you may have heard those stories as you got some of the 40-year stories. I was always a little bit envious of that, not getting to be here from that very beginning. But so I think a lot of that has remained. I guess COVID changed some things, just students are a little bit different than they were a few years ago. And I think it's because they got so used to, going to school at home and more online class work. So we've had to kind of work our way out of that. The Eagle building back up the staff has been a little bit of a challenge since COVID, but slowly but surely, our students are beginning to, I think, recognize and realize the importance of being around, with your professors in an actual learning environment. And so, of course, I think change is always inevitable. We saw the change of when the college, when we passed the bond election and we got to, refurbish, and we didn't have again, some of those same tables and chairs that the original professors put together. So, new furnishings, things like that. But I think overall, while there has been some changes to the aesthetics of the campus and maybe even to some of the student body, like I said, just changes since COVID, and all of us, more teaching online than we used to do, things like that. I think what NTCC stands for, which is just the heart that we have for our students, their success, their engagement, helping them realize, I feel like I'm just throwing out the cliches, but the start here, go anywhere. I really think that's so true. And again, when I look back at my own story of just starting here at 40-something years old, not coming to work here until I was 51 years old, and now I just am now about to celebrate my 19th year here as a teacher. Just that ability to really pursue goals and dreams, and no matter your socioeconomic, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what your journey's been. Just I think that is the constant to me for NTCC, despite the fact of some of the changes that have taken place that have just been inevitable as we enter 2025 in 40 years. That constant of just student engagement and caring about our students. That's what it's a real goal for me to do, offer my students that same concern and care and desire to see them succeed that my professors here at this college had for me, 20-something years ago. And so that's important to me. So while I know I didn't really answer your questions with a whole lot of change, I think it's more important to look at what has remained the same. Well, I guess a couple of things is because I was a journalist, not a young journalist, but young and not young in age, but young in learning how to do this, just some of the opportunities. I was just getting close to finishing up my degree and transferring over to commerce, and the college became involved with a consortium group out of Dallas, the North Texas Consortium, and they were going to take a group of educators to Vietnam, and they asked me if I wanted to go as a journalist. They were looking for someone to document the trip, and so they came and asked me, and that was just, an amazing experience. So I went as a student, but really as a journalist, and taking photos of the trip, sharing the stories. One thing that really stands out is 3 of our faculty members here from NTCC that went were Vietnam veterans. So I got to experience them returning to Vietnam. And all three of them had been in Vietnam. They weren't just Vietnam era veterans, they had been in Vietnam. So that was a real experience for me to kind of relive that, them going back to that country where we'd been at war, and going back as educators. So that was quite an amazing experience. And then right before that, I had an opportunity, our students, some of our science students, our physical science students, I believe it was, signed up with NASA to take an experiment aboard the KC-135 Vomit Comet, and they applied and they got accepted. And part of that was bring a journalist with you to document. So they asked me, again, just these opportunities that happen because of me working with the college newspaper and the Eagle and really getting deeply involved in our storytelling here through the newspaper and Dr. Thompson's support of our staff and opportunities, always finding opportunities for us to have, even though we were a small college. And so I had the opportunity to go with them, flew above on that 135 and did the zero gravity. And so that's something that, who would have ever thought I would get those types of experiences. So I always called that my summer of insanity, because I got to go to Vietnam and fly on the zero gravity plane. And I was just like, what the heck, a little small rural girl from Cookville, Texas, grew up on a farm, and I'm, in Vietnam and flying on the NASA training, plane because of my opportunities that were offered to me here at the college through our journalism program. So those are a couple of stories that really stand out to me from when I was a student here.
It shaped you.
Oh man, it just changed my life, and I think my story tells you that. Again, I've never ever regretted being a mom. I loved those opportunities when I first got married, and my husband and I made that decision for me to not work and be at home with my kids. And those were wonderful years that I've never regretted. I don't look back and go, oh man, I wish I'd have done this sooner. I don't. I'm so glad that I had those years with my kids and being a mom. And then again, I call it a late in life career when I came over here, really just to get some credit, to make us a little extra money, substitute teaching. And then just the opportunities, the falling in love with the journalism program, I jokingly say I'm Lois Lane, and I tell everybody, hey, if I want to pretend I'm Superman's girlfriend, I can. And but really just getting to be a journalist, a reporter, and then going out and doing that, working at the local newspaper, at the Tribune as the feature editor before coming here. It just really shaped my whole life. I mean, and I won't say my whole life, because my husband, our life together, our children were my first part of my life. That shaped who I was, my Christian faith, a Sunday school teacher. I love my church. And so that was the first part of my life. But then coming here at 40 years old, 40 plus, and stepping into this opportunity of journalism and then eventually English, and just writing as a whole. I get to teach creative writing also, and we do the literary magazine, the Lanyard Literary Magazine, getting to teach technical and business writing. Believe it or not, that's one of my favorite courses, because I see students who really don't want to write, and they come in and they get that opportunity to develop their skills in a professional writing setting. That's a great class to teach. And then just, so it really just set my life for my later life, as just a trajectory that I never thought that I would take. And sometimes it was real hard for me. It took me a long time to actually call myself a professor. I would have people ask me, so you're a teacher? And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm a journalist and I teach, right? So for a long time, that's what I almost always said, is I'm a journalist who gets to teach writing. And I still consider myself a journalist, but it finally, after nearly 20 years, and just the support of my colleagues and my such an amazing administration here, just I just can't even say enough about our leadership. my colleagues, again, my former professors, just finally giving me that confidence to say, yeah, if people ask me now, I'm okay with saying I'm an NTCC journalism and English professor, but I still in my heart always say I'm really a journalist at heart. So anyway, but yeah, so I would just say it changed my life. Yeah. Happy 40th anniversary, NTCC.